Good afternoon and welcome to the New York City Council hearing of the Committee on Governmental Operations, State and Federal Legislation. At this time, can everybody please silence your cell phones? If you wish to testify, please go to the back of the room to fill out a testimony slip. At this time and going forward, no one is to approach the dais. I repeat, no one is to approach the dais. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon. I want to apologize for my tardiness, especially to Councilmember Brewer, but to everyone. My name is Lincoln Ressler. I have the privilege of chairing the Committee on Governmental Operations, State and Federal Legislation, at least for about 14 more days. We'll see from there. I'd like to welcome my colleagues who've joined us today, former chair of this committee, Councilmember Gail Brewer, our councilmember representing us here at 250 Broadway, Councilmember Chris Marte, Councilmember Jennifer Gutierrez of Brooklyn and Queens, but really Brooklyn, let's be real, and our bill sponsor today, who's she's from Queens originally, but she's Brooklyn, just in case anyone was wondering, on the record. And the bill sponsor for today's hearing, my friend, Councilmember Dr. Natasha Williams. And Councilmember Hanif, my neighbor, is with us on Zoom. Thank you for joining us, Councilmember Hanif. This is the final governmental operations hearing of 2020. Well, I guess we're doing a vote on Thursday. So it's basically the final hearing of the year. It's our 20th hearing. It has been an enormous privilege to chair this committee. I really want to just thank the speaker and her whole team and the tremendous staff and all my colleagues for being wonderful partners in this work. I have greatly enjoyed it. We're holding a hearing today on Intro 1493, as noted, sponsored by Councilmember Dr. Natasha Williams and co-sponsored by 30 of our colleagues. Intro 1493 would increase the compensation of elected officials in New York City. The mayor, the controller, the public advocate, members of the city council, borough presidents, and district attorneys by 16%. That's in line with the annual increases in the mayor's office over the past 5 years. Under our city charter, the mayor is required to appoint a commission to review the compensation levels of elected officials every 4 years. It's an obligation that is necessary to ensure that our city government continues to operate effectively and attract the best and brightest talent. But of course, Mayor Adams failed to act. So once again, the City Council is stepping up to try to help get the job done. The last Quadrennial Advisory Commission was convened in 2015, when Barack Obama was president, when Steph Curry won his first ring, the year the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage, and at that point, we were endlessly debating the color of that damn dress. I don't know what color it was. Jen says it was blue. Indeed, over the past 40 years, since the Quadrennial Advisory Commission framework has been in place, we've never had such a long period of time, 10 plus years, without a commission being convened. The 2015 Quadrennial Commission, comprised of 3 individuals, all appointed by Mayor Bill de Blasio, and chaired by the, extraordinary Fritz Schwartz, was charged with reviewing the history of elected official pay, the salaries of agency heads and senior staff in city government, the salaries of elected officials in other major cities, and private and nonprofit sector salaries. But we don't need an in-depth study and a 170-page report to understand basic facts. Council members are currently paid an annual salary of $148,500. First Deputy Mayor Randy Mastro makes more than double that, $324,144. Indeed, Mayor Adams he has 8 other deputy mayors, if you can believe that. Fabian Levy is a deputy mayor. Kaz Daughtry, Suzanne Miles Gustave, Adolfo Carrion, Jeffrey Roth, Anna Almanzar, Tiffany Raspberry, and Camille Varlock each make more than twice as much as every member of the city council. They make $297,000 and $12,000 a year. In FY25, 16,452 employees, 16,452 city employees made more than a city council member. In the mayor's office alone, there are 130 staffers who make more than a council member, not including the many hundreds of lines, and I mean it, hundreds of lines, in the mayor's office that are being hidden on agency lines. So this is when somebody works technically is paid by the Department of Environmental Protection, but works out of the mayor's office. So there are many, many hundreds of staffers at City Hall who make consequentially more than the city council. Salaries of elected officials across the country have also increased on average 36% since 2015, more than double what's been proposed by this legislation. Legislators in Los Angeles, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Chicago, and San Diego all make more, and Washington, D.C., thank you, Councilmember, make more than a New York City council member. We've seen similar increases in nonprofit and private sector salaries. The salary increase we're discussing is lower than the rate of inflation over the last 10 years, which would have put councilmember salaries at well over $200,000. It's critical that we convince the best and the brightest, rather than just the wealthiest New Yorkers, to make the decision to run for public office. It is a profound honor and privilege to serve the city of New York. I can confidently say that not a single one of my colleagues ran for office because of the salary. However, it is a challenging and demanding job. Every single New York City Council member represents more constituents than the entire city of New Haven. The borough president of Brooklyn represents more people than the mayor of Chicago. On any given night, my colleagues can be found on the scene of fires helping ensure tenants are safe and housed, supporting community members impacted by gun violence, advocating for public benefits to be provided to people in need, or reviewing the $116 billion city budget line by line. My colleagues work 24/7 to deliver for our communities. Under this proposed legislation, a council member will make $172,500. And let me be clear, this is a high salary. There are thousands of New Yorkers, indeed hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers, who are struggling to put food on the table and pay rent today. And every single one of them deserves a living wage. We must continue to fight for higher pay for New Yorkers who need it, like paraprofessionals, EMTs, nonprofit workers, and so many more. But if we want to recruit the best and the brightest to serve in these critical roles and lead our city, we need to ensure the pay is not a deterrent for community leaders with college loans or astronomical daycare costs. The 2022 City Council broke records as the most diverse and the first female majority city council in our city's history. It is essential that leaders from underrepresented communities continue to consider public service. The proposed council member salary is still less than an agency head, less than 75 mayor's office employees, and 7,900 it is appropriate and commensurate with the responsibilities of the position. The charter has limited the council's ability to act on this legislation between a general election and January 1st. But I hope that the incoming council will take swift action to resolve this issue. And I hope, moving forward, mayors will appoint a salary review commission every 4 years, as is required by the city charter. I think it's worth noting that this commission, which is required by the charter to be appointed every 4 years, has been appointed twice in the last 26 years. So on average, since 1999, we've had 2 commissions. 2. One in the Bloomberg administration, one in the de Blasio administration, none in the Adams administrations. So there are questions about how well this process, as was outlined in the charter 40 years ago, is actually working. The charter has limited the council's ability to act on this legislation. With that, I want to thank the Governmental Operations Committee staff, our committee counsel, Jahari Frazier, who has done a great job taking over this bill, policy analyst Erica Cohen for their hard work in preparing for this hearing, my communications director, Neem Mooney, and especially my chief of staff, Molly Haley, who is absolutely brilliant, and I'm grateful for her hard work. With that, I will turn it over to my friend and colleague, our sponsor of today's legislation, Councilmember Dr. Natasha Williams.
Thank you. And the chair actually really laid out so much, so I'll be extremely brief. And thank you so much, Chair, for taking this up. The city charter lays out a clear structure for how compensation for elected officials is meant to be reviewed. That structure begins with the mayor convening a congenial commission, a body that examines the data, makes recommendations, and creates a transparent record for New Yorkers. As noted, that commission has not been convened since 2016, meaning nearly a decade has passed without a full review the charter anticipates. The legislation introduced acknowledges the gaps and initiates the formal process outlined in the charter. It does not predetermine outcomes, but ensures the review proceeds on the timeline the charter anticipates for the following year. The figures referenced in the bill use a cost of living benchmark drawn from the recent DC 37 agreement, a series of annual adjustments, 3% for 2021 to 2024 and 3.25% in 2025, rounded to the nearest 500. Today's hearing provides an opportunity to review the charter's requirements, the role of the commission, and the steps that follow so the public can understand how these matters are evaluated. I look forward to today's discussion and to the continued work of the commission and this body.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Dr. Natasha Williams. Never miss the opportunity to recognize her extraordinary accomplishment of getting a PhD while serving in the City Council. We've been joined by Councilmember Ina Vernikov. Thank you for joining us, Ina. Sorry? JD? But you didn't get the JD while serving in the City Council, so that was the distinction why we have to especially shout it out. But if there's any further degrees that you do secure while serving, please let me know. With that, we'll bring up our first panel. I have to say this, so I'll do it as fast as I can. No members of the administration are here, so we're going to open this up to the public. I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a government proceeding and the decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video or recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant of Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant of Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 3 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic: compensation of the mayor, public advocate, members of the City Council, Borough President, Controller, and District Attorneys. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant of Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of closing this hearing. Audio and visual recordings will not be accepted. For in-person panelists, please come up to the table once your name has been called. Now I will call our first panel, which we're going to start with the good government groups. So we will invite Grace Rao from Citizens Union and Samantha Sanchez from Common Cause New York to be our first panelists today. Thank you for joining us. Great. Feel free to testify in whichever order you'd like.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Grace Rao. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Union. I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to testify today, and thank you, Chair Ressler, for your leadership of this very important committee. For over a century, Citizens Union has been dedicated to honest and accountable government and fair and open elections. We have participated in many past reviews of elected officials' compensation, and that experience informs our testimony today. Let me be clear at the outset, elected officials should be well paid. Adequate compensation attracts strong candidates, allows people who are not wealthy to consider public service, and reflects the importance of serving the public. Citizens Union has long supported fair pay for elected officials. And there are also legitimate reasons to consider raising salaries now. Elected officials have gone nearly a decade without a pay adjustment, and the cost of living in New York has risen significantly. It is, however, possible to raise salaries through an honest, transparent, and credible process. But the legislation before you today does not do that. For more than 50 years, every increase in the salaries of elected officials in New York City has followed the work of an independent compensation commission, which has conducted reviews and issued recommendations on pay. The current proposal before the City Council breaks from that precedent, offers no supporting analysis for the proposed 16% increase, and is being advanced by in an 11th hour manner to work around the very clear prohibition in the city charter that bars the council from raising pay during a lame duck period like the one that we are in. The approach that you all are considering undermines public trust and creates a troubling precedent. Fortunately, you have better options. First, the council can call on Mayor-elect Mamdani to convene a compensation commission at the beginning of his term. In fact, instead of requiring the incoming mayor to establish a commission by the end of 2026, after elected officials received a raise, as this bill is currently proposing, the council could instead require him to establish a commission by the end of January 2026. Second, the council could amend the law to authorize another citywide elected official to appoint a pay commission if the mayor fails to do so. For example, the city controller could be empowered to make the appointments if a commission is not convened by a specific deadline. This would preserve the existing framework while ensuring that the law is followed. The council could also consider establishing a one-time city council-appointed compensation commission to operate in 2026. The city charter explicitly contemplates such a council-created commission, and similar one-time legislative actions have occurred before. That commission, created now, could begin work immediately and make recommendations before any salary increase takes effect. Finally, the council could seek a court order compelling the mayor to comply with the law, requiring the appointment of a compensation commission. The council has sued mayoral administrations in the past for failing to carry out local laws. That option has been available for several years and remains available today. None of these require abandoning half a century of precedent or rushing through flawed legislation. Council members can achieve fair compensation while protecting the integrity of the salary setting process and maintaining public trust. Citizens Union stands ready to work with the council to achieve that shared goal. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good afternoon, Chair Ressler and members of the committee. My name is Samantha Sanchez, and I'm a policy manager at Common Cause New York, a nonpartisan organization focused on government accountability, transparency, and ethical governance. Common Cause New York does not oppose fair and reasonable compensation for public officials. In fact, we worked for years to support the last salary increase enacted in 2016, and we generally support periodic reviews of compensation levels, particularly given that no such review has occurred in the past decade. However, we oppose advancing salary increases without review and recommendation from an independent compensation commission. For more than 50 years, the New York City has relied on independent compensation commissions to evaluate salary levels of elected officials. Intro 1493 would authorize a salary increase without convening a compensation commission. We understand that and share the council's frustration with the failure of the last two mayoral administrations to appoint the required commission. However, self-adjustment of salaries is not an appropriate response to that failure. Allowing elected officials to vote to increase their own compensation, particularly on a retroactive basis, raises procedural concerns and runs counter to long-standing anti-corruption principles that separate compensation decisions from those who directly benefit from them. The problem before us is not whether compensation should be reviewed or even increased. It is that the current system is not self-executing. For that reason, Common Cause New York urges the council to pause consideration of Intro 1493 and instead adopt legislation that addresses the underlying structural issue. Specifically, the council should amend the current law to permit the council to convene an independent compensation commission when a mayor fails to comply with the requirement established under Local Law 77 of 1986 to appoint such a commission every 4 years. This approach would preserve independent review, maintain continuity with decades of established practice, and ensure that compensation decisions are made through a legitimate and accountable process. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Great. Thank you both for the thoughtful testimony. We really appreciate it. Happy to open up to colleagues first, where I can always talk, as Councilmember Brewer knows. And we've been joined by Councilmember Frank Morano, the newest member of this committee, who's been a great addition. Councilmember Brewer, you want to begin?
Thank you very much. I have two questions. One is, just to be clear, I think that any discussion of pay raises for council members should be attached to increases for staff. My staff is really underpaid. And in order to have increases for the members, I would like to see something more aligned along the same percentage or whatever is appropriate for staff. Is that something that you thought about in your discussions, in your you didn't mention it in your presentation?
I can take it first. I think you raise a really important point. It's not something that we have addressed in our testimony today, but I think that that further makes the case for a pay commission, an outside commission, to assess what is appropriate. They would have the opportunity to take a bigger picture view, both of city council pay, of pay for staff members in the city council. And as you know, prior pay commissions, the most recent one, also proposed reforms like ending Lulus in the city council and making the city council position a full-time role, which we believe should also be very much part of the conversation. So looking holistically at pay issues across the board in the city council is really important, and something that an outside commission would be the appropriate place to do so.
Also, do you think it would be a conflict to have the city council do its own commission? Would it be better to do the mayor, or you don't have an opinion?
Our priority is, we believe, the mayor creating a commission would be the best next step. It affirms the law that exists right now. But as a secondary measure, we proposed in our testimony that the council could consider amending the existing law so that if the mayor does not follow through on their legal obligations to establish such a commission, then another citywide elected official would be tapped to do so. And to us, it felt like the city controller would be an appropriate next person to defer to in the event that the mayor does not follow through on their legal obligation.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll jump in. As I mentioned in my opening, in the last 26 years, we've had only 2 quadrennial commissions, one under Mayor Bloomberg, one under Mayor de Blasio, none under Mayor Adams. There should have been 6. So given the quadrennial commission framework has been convened 3 times, as infrequently as it should be, that's a little bit hard to wrap my head around, but it's given that the quadrennial commission has been historically only appointed by the mayor, is this process broken? Like, do we think that it's time to actually create a new approach for ensuring that elected official compensation kind of is competitive?
So that's kind of why, that's Common Cause's stance, right? Because the current system is not self-executing, and that is an issue. And we do believe in the fact that council members deserve to be compensated adequately for all of your hard work and the way that you represent your constituents. It's an honor to be able to witness that. However, the council should amend the current law to convene an independent compensation commission when the mayor fails to comply with Local Law 77's 4-year requirement. In the solution, it would preserve independent review, prevents future stalemates, and maintains the 50-year precedent. So in the event that the mayor fails to, then we believe that it is the autonomy of the council, if Local Law 77 is actually amended, to do so.
And I would just point to our testimony and recommendations. We would say, first, we have a new mayor who's taking office on January 1st. I think the city council would be well served to call on the incoming mayor to create such a commission.
On forward-looking, but I'm just asking broadly, is the process broken? Like, it has not been working. Do you think, I appreciate your recommendations for moving forward, and I want to get there, but I just kind of want to, as a starting point, we've had 2 commissions in 26 years. They're supposed to exist every 4 years. Do you think the Common Cause's testimony response was helpful? I just am interested in Citizens Union perspective. Do you think the current process is broken?
I think the current process needs to be amended and updated to reflect the reality that we have had now several mayors who have not followed through on their legal obligation to establish such a commission, which is why we think it would be very reasonable for the city council to update that law and include a measure that says when a mayor fails to set up a quadrennial commission, that then the city controller would be next in line to do so. And perhaps there could be a series of, public advocate could be next. The city council speaker could be in line as well.
And essentially, you're both proposing the same solution, that should the mayor fail to convene a commission in a timely way as required by law, some other elected official would, whether it be the council or the controller or whoever, would be charged with having to step up to create that commission so that this issue is reviewed on a recurring basis?
I think we differ somewhat slightly in that we wanted to propose a menu of options to the city council. So that is one area in which we agree, but we don't think that is
Oh,
the
yeah.
only option
I just,
for
to
you
that
all
question,
to pursue.
Yeah, fair. I mean, the other cities, such as Chicago, have policies that automatically adjust salaries based on inflation. Is that a preferred approach so that we're not? I mean, this is a political football, and it's always challenging for it always appears self-serving for elected officials to be talking about raising their own salaries. And so is there a better or alternative approach than convening these commissions to look at things? Is it just to say there should be an annual cost of living adjustment for elected officials or a biannual cost of living adjustment for elected officials so that their salaries remain competitive?
I think what you unfortunately lose with just an annual cost of living adjustment is the opportunity to look more holistically at pay across the city council, as Councilmember Brewer raised. The idea of perhaps tying a pay raise for elected officials to a pay increase for staff members. And additionally,
History of that ever happening before? No.
not that I'm aware of.
I mean, I welcome the idea, but I
there
just
is a
mean to
history
say,
of reform.
in the purview of the quadrennial commissions in the past.
There is a history of the prior quadrennial commissions recommending certain reforms to the city council operations. And so I think it's a more of a holistic approach to have the outside commission examining this and studying it, and provides more room for a nuanced conversation beyond simply tying pay raises to cost of living adjustments.
Right. So you think that would be inadequate if there was just an alternative approach that was focused on cost of living adjustments?
We would recommend that the city council pursue the commission before and sort of alternatives to have one established before looking at very different structures to consider pay raises.
And Common Cause agrees with that stance.
Right. And my recollection was that the 2015 commission, which provided or recommended a significant pay increase for council members, also recommended severe restrictions on outside income. So, and I think also that was the time when they reformed the Lulu process and all that kind of stuff too, which was all, very sensible and overdue reforms. So I conducted a review of city salaries in advance of the hearing, and I was surprised by kind of the salaries in the mayor's office, where there are 52 employees that are making over $200,000 that we know about. It's likely about double the number who are working in the mayor's office making over $200,000, as I mentioned before, because of all the folks who are on agency lines who are deployed to the mayor's office. Have you reviewed mayor's office salary increases? I know you've got a lot of interest in this issue, but have you looked at the increases in the mayor's office, especially over the last 4 years, where there have been quite extraordinary increases under Eric Adams?
Truthfully, no. That is alarming.
I
And you
always
just
appreciate
gave us
truthful answers.
another issue to tackle.
Right. Do you think more scrutiny is needed here?
I mean, I think it sounds like you've done a good deal of research, and we would love to look at it and see what you found, which I assume, if you would like to share it with us, we'd love to look at it.
Well, we're happy to. I mean, I've always been concerned about the mayor's office practice of hiding staffers on agency lines to try and make it appear that the mayor's office budget and mayor's, is more modest than it actually is. But it's been the extreme increases in salaries that we've seen under Eric Adams that has been notable. In February of 24, Mayor Adams signed a personnel order granting all managerial employees, including agency heads and mayor's office staff, retroactive increases of 3% from 2021 to 2024. An increase of 3.25% in 2025. These raises for 10,000 employees cost the city $2.1 billion. The 10,000 managerial employees are entirely at the discretion of the mayor. They are his political appointees. Do you think it's appropriate for the mayor to give his political appointees a $2 billion salary increase? That got significantly more scrutiny. That got significantly less scrutiny than today's hearing topic.
I couldn't respond right now without sort of broader context to the specific of the question, specific to the questions. specificity of the question that you are asking. But broadly speaking, our message is that we do believe elected officials, and while it's not the subject of today, that people who work in public service and in government should be well compensated. These are important jobs. We want people to pursue them and to not have to be independently wealthy to do so. So we come to the conversation today less concerned about how high salaries are or aren't, and more about the importance of having a transparent process for city council members to set their own salaries. That's the distinction, is that those city hall employees are not setting their own salaries.
Well, elected officials are public servants too. Look, an administrative assistant in the mayor's office who was making $92,000 in 2021 is now making $108,400 just based off the mayor's raises. There's no performance review, no analysis of their work, no studying of comparable salaries, just blanket across the board pay raises that aggregated to $2.1 billion that Eric Adams handed out to his political appointees. If we support raises for these hardworking servants, it's hard for me to understand why, and indeed, the entire unionized workforce received similar pay increases during that same period of time as Mayor Adams negotiated their salaries. Elected officials and maybe community board district managers are the only people who didn't get those cost of living adjustments during that same period in all of city government.
With all due respect, council member, I would love to point out that the two problems that you're kind of putting in front of us right now, it goes back to a structural issue. So our stance is that no matter what, there actually should be a compensation commission, regardless of what level it is, to actually evaluate city employees, elected officials for their compensation, because the salary gaps that you're naming, it's absolutely egregious, especially when we have constituents and fellow New Yorkers that are living below the poverty line. And to see this socioeconomic downfall kind of falling in front of our eyes, not the best. You're raising a great point, but it does go back to a structural issue. And it comes back to the point that it is a mayoral failing, that we have an opportunity to amend through legislation, through transparency, and to kind of give back that trust that a lot of voters have lost in this past administration, unfortunately.
And I would just add that all of the information that you just shared with us about pay levels in the mayoral administration should all be part of sort of the body of research that an outside commission is examining and taking into consideration when making recommendations for city council pay.
Yeah, no, look, I hear you. The 2015 Quadrennial Commission did a 170-page report. I reviewed it. I have it here. It was fine. And, Fritz Schwartz was the head of it, so it was impressive. But, in essence, at its core, the key analysis was salary history, pay for comparable elected officials, and economic factors. This is a very basic analysis that is required to be able to ascertain what should the adjustment be for elected officials over a 10-year period of time. It's not rocket science, right? And we've been able to Eric Adams did an across-the-board $2.1 billion salary increase for his political appointees, which I don't recall any statements from Citizens Union or Common Cause or any good government groups criticizing, maybe because you all supported it. I don't know. I just mean to say we're looking at that, and you weren't there at the time, so I can't criticize you for the statement. I can criticize Ben. But I love Ben, so I wouldn't. Just kidding. Not kidding about loving Ben. It's all to just say, I feel like there's a disproportionate emphasis here, but missing the broader point of how salary increases are happening across city government. And I'm just a little confused when the analysis is really quite straightforward and simple. It informed why Dr. Williams introduced this legislation in this fashion, and the recommendations and the data that underpins her proposal that has 31 council members co-sponsoring and support. Are there data points that we're missing that require a much deeper analysis, or is it just a process question for you and you think it doesn't look right for the council to be acting in its own self-interest?
I think it doesn't look right for the city council to be acting in its own self-interest. We're also in a period where democratic norms have been eroded nationally and in Washington. And so we're quite concerned about declining trust in government, which is also why we feel very strongly that there is real importance and power in having an outside commission that is conducting this independent assessment and making recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the conversations I've had with Dr. Williams and many of my other colleagues, it's never popular to do a pay increase for elected officials. It's always fraught. And I guess, and I care just as much as you do about instilling faith and confidence in New Yorkers in that government is working for them. And frankly, after these 4 years of Eric Adams, we have a lot of ground to make up. But there's an opportunity for government groups and others to say, looking at the data, it's clear that an increase is needed and one should be addressed swiftly. And I guess I have heard in the testimony today there's a openness to the issue being resolved. It's just a question of how.
Yes, and I would love to actually kind of go back to your previous points regarding like the lack of specificity in the previous commission reports. And I think that that's another opportunity for feedback, right? To kind of include the benchmarks, the information that you're looking for to actually make a report substantive to you and your council members' liking. There's a lot that we can do together to actually amend Local Law 77. And I do apologize that we weren't here before. I've been here for 10 months and we are a staff of 3. There are many issues going on in this great state, but we are here now, and I can promise that moving forward, the same scrutiny is going to be applied across the board.
Yeah, look, I appreciate it. I think that in general, Citizens Union and Common Cause have the best attendance record at the GovOps Committee. We always appreciate your participation and your insight. I'd like to just open it up. I would like to recognize Councilmember Jim Gennaro of Queens and offer Councilmember Williams the opportunity to ask some questions.
Yeah, no, just a statement that, like, I get it. It's completely the process. I think for our class of council members, I think is also a timeliness thing that gets overlooked. And I am a hopeless believer in democracy, but oftentimes it's very hard to be deliberate in democracy, and it takes a lot of time. And so that's just the only thing I want to add. Like, I completely get it and I understand, and having commissions certainly are better for public consumption, but the public has always been upset about any raise, no matter how the raises have come. And you know, there could be an argument on the timeliness. Maybe this is something that should have been taken up. But you know, I think for most of the council, we're coming into our final term, and these commissions historically have taken time, and so this is why we try to find some form of a happy medium where it's, you know, being intentional, not even looking back the 10 years. This because if we look back 10 years, it would go much higher in terms of what was proposed, but really only looking at the last 4 years, and being really sensitive to the raises that city workers have received over the last 4 years, using the same mechanism that they use, but to also say that this shouldn't be in replace of a commission, that we still do believe that a commission should be created. So no question, I just want to say that I do understand the dynamic, and I do get what you're saying about process and completely understand. It's just, I think for many colleagues, timeliness of the commission and the commission's work is probably what the issue is as to why we've tried to find this sweet spot.
I had one question that I just want to ask before passing it over to Councilmembers Morano and then Brewer. So if a commission were convened, whoever it may be appointed by, as we could talk through the different permutations, do you believe, based on your analysis in advance of this hearing, that compensation should be adjusted for elected officials when the commission recommends it, or prospectively for the next term?
We think the gold standard is prospectively for the next term. That is the law. If you all were in the state legislature or were serving in Congress, any pay raise that you all were contemplating would need to be prospective.
The 2015 quadrennial took effect immediately, right?
Correct. So as I said, that would be the gold standard. It is not required by law in New York City for elected officials, but just noting that our state constitution, as well as federal one, does require sort of, if you were in Congress, if you were in the state legislature, you would be required to only approve a prospective pay increase.
But none of those guys got term limits.
I will take back that question and formulate a better response.
I appreciate it. I just think it's worth noting a prospective pay increase that would take effect in 2030 means that a 15-year period elapsed without any change in the compensation level for elected officials across the city of New York. And, when you look at, I mentioned the salaries of people like Randy Mastro who make $324,000 a year. The chancellor makes well over $400,000 a year. Every other deputy mayor in the city of New York makes twice as much as city council members. But if you look at other cities like Los Angeles, where council members make $231,000 a year, San Diego, little San Diego, where people make $173,000 a year, the sixth borough in Philadelphia, where it's $158,000 a year, these are all cities that are substantially smaller than New York City, but where compensation for the elected officials is substantially higher. So, I just understand, that why that is a best practice, and there's a good argument that this issue could have been addressed 3 months ago, that could have taken effect for the next term and been handled in a different way. But as I've mentioned, 7 times in the span of this 45-minute hearing, we've had, quadrennial commissions convene sporadically, and it seems to me that the process is broken. And you both proposed a series of reforms that could either be one-time solutions or ongoing solutions for how to ensure that the commissions are actually convened and making recommendations so that we don't have this kind of political football every so often. And with that, I will pass it to Councilmember Morano and then Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And our friends in Yonkers, Miami, and Hudson County, New Jersey take issue with you characterizing Philadelphia as the sixth borough rather than their communities. Thank you both for being
Let
here.
alone the folks in Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic.
Exactly. And thank you for your testimony. Just to follow up on what the chairman asked about the question of prospectivity, even if a commission were convened tomorrow, would Citizens Union and Common Cause generally support retroactive raises, or do you believe compensation changes should be always prospective to preserve public trust?
Well, I'm about 6 months into my new role at Citizens Union. My understanding is the last quadrennial commission, we were very firmly in support of those raises being prospective, which was not what was ultimately adopted. I think that is a best practice, certainly, and part of that is so that when elected officials go before the voters understand that there is a pay raise on the line. That is something that they can take into account when they are determining who their local elected officials are.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
No, my question was about if these raises were to be retroactive or not. Let's say we do fix the process in a manner, and let's say there's a commission convened tomorrow. Should the raises be retroactive to, say, January 1st, or should they just be prospective? Not necessarily for the next council, but for the next paycheck.
I don't think we actually have a problem with with retroactive pay, but moving forward, we would love to establish a standardized practice so that this issue doesn't occur again.
Would you agree that allowing mayors to ignore the commission requirement for a decade and then bypassing it entirely weakens respect for the charter itself?
Yes.
Yes.
And if the council could only act on one thing in the new year, either fixing the commission law or raising salaries, which would you both prioritize?
I think that it's a respectfully, I think both can be accomplished by fixing the process.
Agreed.
So it's fair to say that both Common Cause and Citizens Union's position is not never raise salaries, but fix the system first, then let an independent body guide those decisions.
Yes, absolutely, because all of you deserve to be paid adequately. It is an honor to be a public servant, and these problems that we've had with the past administration have been egregious, and it has degraded public trust, and it is a noble calling. Yes, you all deserve to be paid such.
We believe elected officials should be well paid. We think it's really important to have adequate compensation to attract strong candidates and ensure that we don't only have people who are wealthy who feel like they can run for public office.
Lastly, are there any suggestions that you'd make for a future charter commission beyond your suggestions of if the mayor doesn't impanel a commission, then the controller gets to, then the public advocate gets to? Are there any sort of mandates that would allow this commission not to be optional? Because it seems like it's a crummy situation we're all in because multiple mayors have just chosen to ignore the requirement to appoint a quadrennial commission.
Yeah, go ahead.
This would be one of many charter revisions that we would want to see implemented.
The current legislation, the current law clearly needs more teeth to compel the mayor to create such a commission. We think sort of setting up, amending the law to authorize another citywide elected official could provide the needed pressure on whomever is the mayor of New York to fulfill their legal obligation. And then, we also think we're having this conversation now. It's been 10 years since the city council has had a pay raise. The city council is filled with elected officials who are extremely influential, and the city council could and likely should be calling on the next mayor who takes office in January to follow through on this and create such a commission. So I think far too much time has lapsed. Clearly, there needs to be structural amendments made to ensure we're not in a position like this.
One final question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. I apologize.
You certainly may. You have no reason to apologize.
Let's say there were an instance where there was, hypothetically, a mayor and a city council that were very hostile towards one another, that were at loggerheads. And the mayor, yeah, exactly. The mayor were to appoint a quadrennial commission, but he were to stack this commission just with folks that didn't believe the city council deserved a raise or believed they deserved a raise of $1. Would that be a better situation as opposed to simply indexing elected officials' salaries to inflation?
It would obviously be very disappointing and frankly a break with historic precedent were a mayor to create kind of a sham pay commission. We have thankfully not seen something like that, at least to my knowledge, in the 50 years that we've had these pay commissions. So that would be hugely disappointing. And I should note, though, that the final decision, the final vote is made by the city council. So we have had situations where the recommendations by the outside pay commission were not adopted in their entirety by the city council, and the prior commission actually suggested a pay raise that was lower than what the city council ultimately adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Morano. Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you. One question is, if there is a commission, obviously pay raises is one topic. Are there other topics similar to in the past, the Lulus and the outside income that you think should be included? In other words, is there something else that you think should be policy-wise included?
Truthfully, Common Cause would need to review further, but that's a great question.
I don't have a specific example to provide right now, but I think the idea of a more holistic look at compensation could take other issues into account. Excuse me.
Right. Also, do you know, obviously, Lincoln Ressler did some homework. Do you know if other cities have done such increases without a commission? And the reason I ask, it's okay to ask the state legislature and Congress and throw them in the bucket, but they do not have term limits. It's a slightly different, and they're also 2 and not 4 years, so it's a different, in my opinion, scenario. So I didn't know if there are other cities that have done something similar. Los Angeles is very different. 9 members, they have a lot more power than we do here in terms of mayoral control. So it's a slightly different model. But I just don't know if you know of others that have increased their salaries without a commission. If there is a commission, first of all, in their bylaws.
So our understanding, our research has found that in 11 states, legislator salaries are tied to external factors like state employee salaries, median income, cost of living, and that it is structured to allow for automatic increases.
Like a CPI kind of situation.
Yes, as well as decreases. So automatic increases or decreases without legislation. And again, that's my understanding that the Chicago City Council is structured in a similar way. So there is sort of a different approach that some states and cities have taken.
So ostensibly, that could be something that a commission could recommend or not recommend, and could in fact be taken up by the council or not. This kind of, I would say, structured response in terms of salaries.
Yes,
Okay.
they could consider that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brewer. I do have one other topic. I just would like to, if I may, dig in to better understand Citizens Union's recommendations, so I just understand how it would work, if that's okay. And then unless Councilmember, we lost Councilmember Gennaro, so he's not going to ask any more questions. Unless Councilmember Williams has more questions. Do you have questions for us, Jim? No. Okay, good. So the idea to call on the mayor to appoint a commission in January, is that like we would propose legislation that would dictate that he has to convene a commission by January?
So yes, you could certainly pass legislation. I mean, we were sort of citing the language in the current bill before you that does call for the incoming mayor to establish a commission, but by the end of 2026. So one suggestion would be to amend the current bill to remove the pay increase entirely from it and update it to say that the incoming mayor would be required to establish a pay commission by the end of January 2026. We threw that out as a potential date to show that there is urgency behind the need to have this addressed.
And every quadrennial commission, all of the appointees have been done by the mayor. Is that dictated by the charter?
That is my understanding.
And so if a different elected official were to be convening an advisory salary advisory commission, that would presumably require a charter revision commission?
I want to just amend what I said, and Ben may have clarification. It's not in the charter. It's legislation. The charter speaks to the prohibition on any pay increases for the city council during this lame duck period, but the actual structure of quadrennial compensation commissions is set by legislation, so could be updated and amended via legislative change.
So we could make a legislative change without a charter revision commission, amending Ad Code 3-601A to allow other elected officials to potentially convene commissions. Okay. And the city council convening a one-time commission, you also think would not require the charter revision commission? It's something that we could take legislative action on?
That is our belief and understanding that legislative action could be taken to advance a one-time council-appointed commission.
And, okay. I mean, I think that the reality that I think Councilmember Williams and I have tried to articulate here today is that salary increases for elected officials is always an uncomfortable conversation, and it's not a politically popular one, and it's fraught in a variety of different ways. We certainly appreciate, as well as anybody, how many of our constituents are struggling, and when we're talking about putting additional taxpayer dollars into paying fellow elected officials better, it's a hard conversation, and yet the recommendations that are being considered here would basically, I mean, it's through a commission process where there's some basic review of the facts that I think we already know today. It gives a veneer of independence to a process, to an outcome that's nearly predetermined based on the simple math that we all know. So I guess it's just that veneer of independence you think creates credibility to the salary increase that would not exist if this was handled exclusively through legislative action.
Ideally, it's more than a veneer of independence, and so any future commission sounds like they would benefit greatly from the research that you have already conducted in connection with this committee. But it is possible that that commission may look further to other cities and states to do a comparison of pay, look perhaps at different models for future pay increases, and may take into account potential reforms to the structure of the body of the city council that could be paired with pay increases. So, I mean, in the context of what you described with the level of pay increases that many appointees in City Hall have received, it is
10,000
possible.
appointees by Eric Adams, totaling over $2.1 billion. I just want to, it's 131 times the amount. Oh, let me actually do this. I did the math on this. I just wanted to give this to you because I think it's important. The pay increase that we saw by Eric Adams for his political appointees in total is 131,000 times as much as the equivalent increase for elected officials' salary. 131,000 times more. Got zero attention, zero interest from any press or stakeholders as far as I can recall, and yet this is the focus. But by all means, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, the pay increase that you all have on the table right now is 16%. In the context of what you have shared today, it is possible that a pay commission might recommend a higher increase than what you all are contemplating.
That's right. I mean, and just to give the math, the pay increase, according to the fiscal estimate that the council's finance division did, was that this would be a total impact on the budget of $1,649,900 in FY27. Again, Mayor Adams' pay increase was a $2.1 billion impact on the budget. Okay. With that, any other questions for this panel? Thank you for coming and having a really productive dialogue. You guys made very thoughtful arguments, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you both.
Thank you.
We are now going to hear from a couple district managers. Thank you for making the trip. Brooklyn district managers, my favorite kind. Michelle George from Brooklyn Community Board 8 and Sean Campbell from Community Board 14. And feel free to testify in whichever order you prefer. Good afternoon. 1:13. You know, it's been a day.
Good morning.
Morning,
Oh,
Ms.
good
George.
afternoon.
Good afternoon
Good
again.
afternoon.
You
Good
know?
afternoon, Chair Wrestler and esteemed council. My name is Michelle George, District Manager of Brooklyn Community Board number 8. I support Intro 1493, the local laws in relation to compensation for the mayor, public advocate, members of the city council, borough presidents, controller, district attorneys, but my support is based on a personal request. I believe that the justification for the legislation aligns with pleas of community boards citywide over the years for a baseline budget increase, because we have not had one in greater than 20 years. Like council offices, over the years, the responsibilities, workloads, and public expectation of these roles for community board staff have continued to increase. Unfortunately, our budgets have not, thus eliminating our ability to pay our staff accordingly, recruit more talent, and move with the times to utilize current and modern technologies. Unlike the council, however, most community board staff is only 2 to 3 people, meaning that there are fewer of us than in council offices to accommodate the expanding needs of our communities, many of us with over 100,000 residents. As council members rely on their staffers to help pull the load and minimize burnout of the actual elected official, so do we at the community board level, and need resources to minimize our burnout. All district office staffs require full-time focus, significant oversight of the volunteer membership to ensure they have what they need to engage the needs of the community, and constant engagement with complex issues that affect New Yorkers, such as the City of Yes initiatives, and in Brooklyn Community Board 8, the complex Atlantic Avenue Mixed Use Plan, known as AMA, that grew out of Brooklyn Community Board 8's M Crown proposal. Due to the budget constraints, our current salary levels no longer align with the realities of the work or the technology that is needed to meet the needs of our communities post-COVID and even otherwise. Intro 1493 brings the salaries of our legislative body up to date in a responsible way. And as such, I advocate for community boards funding to be added to this legislation or create a separate legislation for us in this vein so that community boards can experience the same benefits in a responsible, respectful, and humane manner. The increase for our baseline budget will accommodate rising inflation and the cost of living in New York City, as well as the level of continued education and commitment required to serve our districts and residents effectively. Thank you for an opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much.
I'll get it right this time. Good afternoon. Chair, council members, and those assembled here. My name is Sean Elise Campbell. I'm the district manager of Brooklyn Community Board 14. And I am here today to speak and acknowledge the justifications noted in the memorandum of support of this intro. I note that this 16% pay increase, the first in 10 years, is described as updated, an updated compensation meant to address the increase in responsibilities, workload, and public expectation of the roles of this and adjacent public bodies in order to serve effectively. I also want to note that the salary alignment and the mechanisms proposed to ensure compensation safeguards requiring the mayor to convene a compensation advisory commission and to ensure the transparency and predictability going forward is included in the justification memorandum. As evidence of my agreement of these tenets is the very testimony that I presented before this body back in the spring in support of budget increases for community boards. We offered precisely the same reasoning and suggested very similar procedural mechanisms to secure our stability going forward as well. Our proposal was for about an 18% increase to make up for a 20-year lack in increases over that same time. So I wish the best outcome for the members of the council, and I hope that these principles, these tenets that are aligned in this proposal be applied to service local communities as we move forward in a new administration. Thank you.
Thank you so much to you both. And just to educate the members of the public and this committee, could you how many years have each of you been working as district managers?
Well, Michelle George, I've been working for Community Board 8 since 1989, 36 years. I've been district manager for the last 16.
That's amazing. Wow. Jerry Esposito's got nothing on you. That's great. Thank you for your service. And Sean?
14.
So you both have been doing this for a long time, true experts. And just help us a little bit further. Could you educate us on the small, as you testified to, community board offices, the folks who work for you, assistant district managers and other staff, are unionized members of DC 37?
Yes.
And are district managers unionized?
No.
And when there are across the board pay increases for management staff at city agencies, do district managers benefit from that?
We benefited from the MPOs.
The MPO, that was, when was that?
It was last year, and it was retroactive. It was like 3.5 for one segment of time, and then it decreased for the other segments of time coming forward.
Okay, great. So if there was a consideration in the future to adjust elected official salaries based on inflation or cost of living increases, would it be sensible to also include district managers as a part of that process, or would you think that should be handled differently?
So I think there's a few different ways of going about it, and what I'd like to say is that a baseline budget increase for the agency would have empowered the board to give merit increases.
Totally.
At this point in the CB14 Brooklyn budget, I would not be able to offer either of my staff a merit increase like ever again. So we would depend on the collective bargaining increases that they get to retain them. And because they're both brilliant and talented, I foresee a time when they will be attracted to other jobs.
Got it.
And
So,
at community board number 8, my staffer, who's a community coordinator, she has a really good salary. I can't even hire another full-time staffer. So I have a college aide, a part-time college aide. It's really difficult.
and just to put a finer point on it, when you all get those, when the MPO happened, did that come out of the community board? No, it's separate and apart from the community board budget.
It augments the budgets, which is why if you look across community boards, we're supposed to have the same budget, but there's some variability based on the percentages affecting different baselines
Got
differently.
it. And if somebody's been there for a long time, then it's likely. Got it. Okay, that's all very helpful. And I'm grateful for your testimony. Do you have any questions? Councilmember Gennaro, Councilmember Brewer, followed by Councilmember Morano.
I just want to say I am 100%. We've been dealing with this issue since long time, 2002 for me, and I feel strongly that you need more money. So I don't know that it'd be part of the elected officials' discussion in terms, but I think that this city council should be much more aggressive. I think I've said this in the past, Mr. Chair, that we should have more aggressive support for the community boards. So I allocate funding because nobody else is doing that for my boards. Thank you.
For the record, we have, as one of our 20 hearings over the last 2 years, we had a hearing focused on reforms to community boards. We passed a number of important pieces of legislation to support community boards, and I strongly agree with you that more resources are needed to support our community boards. When I worked in the de Blasio administration in his first term, there was a meaningful commitment of resources to community boards, but I don't think there's been any real commitment since. And
That was my commitment.
I'm sure it's all the good things happen thanks to Gare Brewer's smart advocacy, and we're grateful for it.
Right on.
Councilmember Morano.
Well, first of all, thank you both for your service. As a longtime member of my community board, I recognize the difficulties and the challenges and the incredible work that district managers do, and thank you for your testimony. I completely agree with you and Councilmember Brewer, and it's one of the reasons that I've used my discretionary budget to supplement some of the shortfalls in things that the community boards need. A couple of quick questions. Talking about money and compensation, there have been proposals from time to time to provide a small stipend for individual members of the community board. I'm curious what impact you think that would have on each of your boards if something like that were to be implemented.
I struggled with that. I think this is a commitment, a local commitment. I personally don't think the stipend would be good because I think the board members will show up just to get paid. Because if you're really committed to doing this work, you'll do it whether you're getting paid or not. So we struggle to have a quorum sometimes. So I don't know that they would. I know that they will come just for the money. They would just come just to get the stipend. That's community board 8's members. I'm not sure that it would be a good thing for us.
Yeah, it sort of diminishes the nobility of volunteerism. So I'd be concerned about that. I'm not sure exactly what proposals you're referring to because some of them have been to offset childcare costs or caring for a member at home. I know that in the charter, I said I know, and then I said that questioningly. I believe that in the charter, there's some note about compensation for travel. So perhaps if there was a fine enough point on it, and it was a finite and amount, it might be worthy of consideration. But paying for volunteer time sort of it goes against the definition of volunteer time.
Not directly related to the financial issue, but potentially something that could make each of your roles more burdensome and more important and possibly deserving of more money, is we are coming up against the first community board members that are going to be term limited. The voters of New York City, against council member then Borough President Brewer's advice, decided to implement a charter change that term limited the community boards. I'm curious, what impact do you think that, whether it's financial or functionally, the term limits are going to have on each of your community boards?
May I? Huge. It's already impacting the day-to-day, the amount of management to bring people up to speed. Community Board 14 also has a transition committee, an ad hoc transition committee that's trying to ensure that the turnover in knowledge is sort of supported with mentors to incoming board members, but is really big. The amount of work that we have to do to administer and recreate committees is big. It's impactful.
And for community board number 8, the first round of board members to be term limited out are the members who have been on the board the longest. So we're losing all that history. It's going to be definitely challenging for community board 8.
My final question is, I've proposed legislation which 19 of my colleagues have co-sponsored that would give council members the authority to appoint half of the community board members rather than just make them recommendations that the borough president has to appoint. I'm curious, since you're on the ground and dealing with these members firsthand, how do you think that reform, if it were implemented, would impact the work that you're doing?
I think we would feel the difference less in Brooklyn, where there has been a history of the three, and then I know the one before, the 3 borough presidents who've served while I've been there have always been so respectful of the nominations that it feels as though they're appointments. So I don't want to speak for other boroughs, but I think in Brooklyn it would be a little less noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The nicest thing that was said about Eric Adams this entire hearing. With that, thank you both for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm just kidding. Not kidding. I'm not. It was an accurate statement. Gail thinks I should be nicer. She's probably right. Thank you both for being here. We really appreciate it. Thanks for the thoughtful testimony. The final panelist for the day, and a frequent flyer at this committee and many others, Christopher Leon Johnson. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Hello, Chair, Wrestler, everybody else. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm here to show support for this bill, but I want to make this clear that anytime a nonprofit say that we have to form commissions and panels, you have to call their stuff BS, because all they care about is trying to find a way to stay in business. And what I heard from the Citizen Union is just an example of the reason why the nonprofit industrial complex need to be abolished in the city of New York. This should be a nonprofit that should fully support this bill, because one of their former chair for the past 3 years on a 990 is a person that you guys hate, Randy Mastro, who is if they want to say this is the bad ethics, they let one of the most unethical people be the chair of the Citizens Union. So the way they're approaching this is ridiculous. They should be fully supporting this at 100%. Now, when it comes to community boards, what I heard from Ms. Michelle George, I didn't like what she said about, people rank and file members should not be paid a stipend. They should be paid. Another problem is that you have district managers that believe that they should all get paid the money, $125,000 a year, while everybody else suffers. We should all be able to get people in the community board should all get paid for what they do, because a lot of them have to represent the city in certain things, especially Community Board 6 in Brooklyn. So I think it shouldn't be where one person makes all the money while everybody else suffer. I think everybody should get a fair share in the city of New York. We have a mayor that's coming in that believes in the affordable city, and the way you start with affordable city is by making sure everybody get paid the money that they deserve to get paid. I know next year they're trying to push for $30 an hour when it comes to workers, and that should be the start. And I'm saying right now that I believe that the city council need to make it where that the members of the city council, like the staffers of ALE, should start getting paid a decent wage. So I support this bill 100%. You guys deserve your weight. You guys deserve it. I support your bill. But I think that the city council, starting with you, Mrs. Natasha Williams, should admonish Citizens Union for saying that they should go through panels and forums, and you should admonish Mrs. Michelle George for saying that she should only get paid the money while everybody else in the community board suffer, all the volunteers suffer. So, like I said, this is great. This is long overdue. Forget all panels, forget all commissions. Just pass this bill and tell Zoran Kwame Madani to not veto this bill. He deserves a wage too. He's going to be a great mayor, and I believe that with this next speaker, this is going to restore a lot of trust in the government. And I think you should be, Mr. Williams, you should be the finance chair. You should try to apply for the finance chair. I mean, you start this bill, you should at least apply to be the finance chair. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I got to say. I support the bill 100%. I'll submit more testimony. And thank you so much.
Chris, can you put that on social media? Because that's not what you said. You
What?
said you were against the bill on social media.
I know. I saw the bill. I'll switch it up.
He switched it up and then said you should be finance chair. It sounds like
I appreciate it, Chris.
it's good testimony.
Yeah, it's great testimony today.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
With that,
Thank you.
That's it. We're good. Chris, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Want to thank all my colleagues for being with us, and I want to say this is the briefest GovOps hearing that we've had in 2 years, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your afternoon.